Well, hi everybody, welcome. So glad to have you here with us this evening, surrounded by this wonderful art on the walls. My name is Julie Fry, I'm President and CEO of California Humanities. And what we do is we make grants and we do programs around the state of California to really help amplify voices, to help connect each other through ideas, through cultures, through art, and through understanding each other's stories. And so we're very excited to have this art on our wall which tells so many different stories, the stories of all of us in one way or another. So we welcome you here tonight. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Neha, who's going to start us off.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming on a Thursday evening. Like Julie said, we're so excited to have Favianna Rodriguez's art on our walls, but we're also a little sad because this is the last day they're going to be up. So just a little bit of a summary of what the Art of Storytelling exhibit series is. We are a grants and public programming organization, but we started the Art of Storytelling exhibit series last summer. We launched it with 8 beautiful quilts from the African American Quilt Guild of Oakland, and Favianna is our second artist. Favianna is one of our former grantees, and so we're very lucky to still stay connected to her and keep her in the family. And we really wanted to do this exhibit, not just to have lovely pieces of art on our walls, our big bare walls, but we wanted to do something where we could support local artists throughout the Bay Area and also throughout the state, and invite people like you into our space, because that's what we want to do. We want to get to know you guys and for you guys to get to know us. So I'm very thrilled that we were able to have you on our walls. Our next exhibit will be the youth-based art group Rise out of Richmond, California. They will be launching with an opening reception on May 18th, so I hope you guys can join us. Right now I'd like to give the imaginary mic to Favianna so she can say a few words, and then we'll give it to Lincoln.
Great. So I'm very excited because Lincoln is one of my mentors, and Lincoln is somebody who really helped shape my art. I've been doing art now formally since the year 2000. And a lot of the books that I would look through were books that Lincoln had edited. So, so I'm really excited for everyone to hear his talk, and then we're going to have a conversation afterwards, right?
That's it?
Awesome.
Okay.
And then I'll talk a little bit more about the work on the walls.
I'm Lincoln Cushing. I'm a friend and colleague of Favi's. And I've been a poster maker, but now a lot of what I do is documentation and interpretation of what these posters mean. There's not a lot of people doing that, and so it's one of those vacuums that I've jumped into. And so what I'm going to give you right now is an incredibly concise history of sort of how to understand political poster art, and hopefully it'll be a sort of great springboard for us to have a broader conversation about the work that's going on right now. So this is a lot of stuff, so strap down your eyeballs. You're going down the street and see a bunch of people. What's happening? If you have visual imagery, it really helps to do 2 major things. One is it helps to form sort of a brand internally, so you know what's going on, your people can tell what's going on, but also it's a great way to bootstrap your message to the broader public. And then there's even a third layer, which is that it helps to lock you into history in a way, because those objects become something that get preserved and get worked with in the future. So that's part of the long-term aspect of what we're doing here. So one of the great expressions about posters is from the Spanish Civil War: soldiers of paper and ink alongside those of flesh and blood. Another expression that I've heard is called paper bullets. These are real tools. These are not just sort of a convenience that you want to bring in at the last minute. These are valuable tools for social change, and if you don't use them, it's at your peril. Some of the first examples of this are when they were trying to deal with the regulated slave trade. We're talking about when there were laws about how many slaves you could pack aboard a ship. Too many, it's illegal. Just enough, it's okay. But too many, and it's illegal. Well, a lot of people thought even this was outrageous, both in terms of the slaves, but also for the sailors who were aboard these ships, for whom working aboard a slave ship was really dangerous as well. So there were all these aspects upon which this needed to be expressed and dealt with in the legislature. There were posters produced both in England and in the United States. And Thomas Clarkson commissioned somebody who worked aboard these ships to say, what's it look like? I've never been aboard a slave ship. Commissioned him to describe this, to come up with drawing this imagery to really depict what was going on aboard a slave ship. And the idea of commissioning art to express civil injustices and then putting it on paper and then putting that paper out in front of people to try to change their minds was sort of the dawn of what I consider a modern political poster. So we're going to quickly go through some other moments in history where this has happened as well, because posters happen sort of in cycles. We're going to go through some in the United States, some in other countries. So in the United States, there was a period when, my God, they spent government money on public art. Can you imagine that? A crazy idea. And for a lot of artists, the artists were not hired to make art. They were hired to teach art. And so you'd get somebody who was a fine artist, and the money was to have them teaching art. Well, for a lot of these artists, they discovered silk screening as a tool for teaching. It had been considered a commercial art form before, a lowly commercial art form. Lithography is what artists do. Well, screen printing is what you use when you say, cantaloupes, 2 for 99 cents. Well, they realized, wow, if you want to teach something quickly to 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, screen printing is a lot easier than lithography. And so a lot of fine artists discovered the power of screen printing and poster making. And so there was a lot of this stuff going on for a good chunk of time before World War II. Prints for the people, stuff about occupational health. So this was an important moment in the resurrection of art as something that was a community service. In Mexico, starting in '38, right around that same period, Mexico was also going through a lot of social upheaval. And a group of artists got together and said, we want to work together collaboratively. We want to form some sort of organization where we have some independence, but also some coherence as a group. And they formed Videographer Popular. They were all pretty radical, but they weren't all like in the same party or anything. They were just radical artists that said, we want to work together because together we're going to be stronger than individuals. And so the TGP did a lot of really fantastic stuff. They did mostly linoleum cuts and wood cuts. They didn't do screen printing. They did a little bit of screen printing. But their form was giant lino cuts. And so here's some of the stuff. Here's a May Day poster. Well, it's not workers masked. It's talking about the social aspects of May Day. You see homeless people on the street in the background. These kids are going off to school, and there's homeless people. So you start to deal with social inequalities here. Here, stopping the war. This is a classic image of the human hand saying no to weapons. This is a constant motif in any anti-war imagery, but just beautifully done, just in one color. It's just a single colored print. Labor issues, miners' strikes. Again, the discrepancy between the armed people, which are usually the bad people, and the unarmed or the weakly armed people being the forces of the community. TGP. They would just crank this stuff out, but they also worked as individual artists. They would sell stuff as commissions. So they'd produce stuff that was single color to go on the street, then they'd also maybe do a 2 or 3 color version that they would sell as a fundraiser. So it comes up with the idea that the kind of posters that you see here have an image effect that's good for feeling good about what you did, but also you can sell those objects, and it's a way to raise money for an organization, which is a crucial thing, especially for a very underfunded grassroots organization. This is a good way to get your message out and to raise some money. In Cuba, starting in '66, the Cuban Revolution was in '59, and at first the posters were pretty boring. I mean, they were sort of following the Soviet model, and they were sort of didactic and not very artistic, and just didn't work. And after a while, what happened is that the Cuban Film Institute said, let's commission some artists to make some posters for some of the Cuban films. And these posters were beautiful. And then the political people said, look what's happening over there. The cultural people are doing really good stuff. People like their posters, they don't like our posters. So the political people started to adopt the means of the cultural people. And so OSPAL did the same thing. They had a whole bunch of social justice issues, but they had really good artists working on these images. And some of these posters were just incredible. The really big contribution that OSPAL did was, instead of having a beautiful piece of art that, say you want to get it to somebody in Belgium or Berkeley, well, a piece of art you'd have to like carefully roll up, put it in a tube, and mail it. That just costs too much money. And so what the Cubans did was say, let's just pretend it's a piece of paper. It's a piece of propaganda. And so you fold it up, you shove it inside of a magazine that's being mailed anywhere. Your distribution costs go to zero, and you're getting them all over the world. And so very often, if you look carefully, you see these little fold marks in this poster. That's because this was folded up and shoved inside of a magazine. That was how they distributed these things. And they said, look, if you treat it as art, it's not going to work. So if propaganda is not effective, it's not doing anybody any good. And I use the word propaganda not pejoratively. We need propaganda. Propaganda is good if it's your propaganda. We're trying to get people to change their minds. There's nothing wrong with that. So OSPAL did a lot of great posters, very simple. Some of these were screen printed, some of these were offset. But they had really good artists coming in and doing this work. They would get everybody cranking out fantastic posters. About once a month, they would come out with an incredible poster. This was the first OSPAL poster I ever saw. You look at it, it's a very simple design. You've got the words solidarity in 4 languages, because these were going all over the world. So they did everything in Spanish, English, French, and Arabic. And there's not a lot of text. And so you have those words forming this net that's stopping a US bomb. You don't have to label it a US bomb. We all knew whose bomb that was. From dropping on top of a unified Vietnam. I mean, this poster doesn't have to use a lot of words to say what's going on. Very elegant design. This poster on the right was designed by a North American artist, Jane Orling, who lives in Berkeley. She designs political campaign posters now. But she went to Cuba, and she designed this poster for Puerto Rico, and she didn't put her name on it. And the artist there said, well, put your name on it. She said, well, I thought that was kind of bourgeois to put your name on something. And they said, no, it's fine. I mean, it's like, there's nothing wrong with it. And so it really sort of blew her mind that it was okay to be an individual. This was at a time in movement art where you were supposed to be anonymous. And the Cubans said, go ahead, put your name on it. So that was just pointing out there's nothing wrong with having some individual credibility and being part of the group and being part of a broader movement. China, we usually sort of take for granted the stuff coming out of China as being sort of, weird, boring state stuff. Well, another way to look at it is that these were posters that were very strong about workers, very strong about women and people of color. They were very supportive of international liberation struggles. And so a lot of these posters, which were against U.S. intervention in Vietnam, this poster is about the worldwide struggle against imperialism. And then you see, well, how do these affect us? Here's a strong woman with a big wrench. And it's talking about mechanization of agriculture. Well, these had an impact in this country. Here's 2 women working on a Volkswagen engine in Emeryville with that poster on the wall. And they didn't know or care that much about the Chinese Cultural Revolution, but they thought, this is a poster that represents me. This is a woman with a wrench rebuilding a better world. Now here's Kathleen Cleaver at the Black Panther Party office with a Chinese poster on the wall. I mean, these posters have resonances well beyond their intended audiences, which is another thing. Favi may do a poster about GMOs here and then find out that it gets reproduced in India. I mean, good images and good messages have enormous resonance, and people pick it up all over the world at different times. Strike, city was shut down, and art students said, what can we do to help? And so they shut down their art schools, and they learned how to print. And they had learned lithography, because that's what artists learned. And they started to make a litho print to support the workers in the factories, and this is taking too long. And some guy said, there's this American technique called silk screening. Let me go down. He worked at an artist supply place. He came back with a bunch of supplies. And they started screen printing stuff. They'd never done this before, but it was an enormously quick and simple way of getting out posters about the struggles. And so they were turning out all these posters, very simple 1 and 2 color posters about supporting the general strike there. So again, a technique that we had revived in the 30s in America was revived again in Paris in 68. And there, here's a picture of them screen printing one of these posters. So you sort of think, well, how does that come back to America? Well, one thing to think about is what happened in this country between 1945 and 1965. Because that was a big chunk of time. We're talking 20 years. There must have been a lot of cool stuff. No. I mean, you'd have trouble mounting a show of political posters made in this country in that period in this room. Because there was anti-communism. It was dangerous. It was really actually dangerous to artists to do political artwork. So one guy, Frank Rowe, he'd been World War II, decorated veteran. He came back. He wanted to teach at San Francisco State. And they said, sign this loyalty oath. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. So he was blacklisted from teaching for almost 20 years. People who made political posters would have somebody show up at their boss's door and say, hey, you know that your workers are communists? They show up at your family and say, we're keeping an eye on you. So there's very little political poster art made. People did other things. They did song and dance, but not posters. And so this poster from '53 is a rare piece about social justice activism on print. And there's that far left corner says FAR, but he paid the price. He finally got a job teaching at Laney College, but this was not an easy period. Here's some other posters that you see during that period. They're very simple, and again, you don't see a lot of evolution of the genre. This was the only poster that came out of the free speech movement. Ugly. I mean, it's barely a poster, right? It's a words. But it's an art sale to support the free speech movement. So the free speech movement, right, this big milestone in sort of social justice America, didn't use poster art at all. They had everything else but. They had song, they had dance, they had theater, poetry, no posters. So what did it take to break this? It took the cultural sphere. It took Bill Graham doing rock concert posters. People said, wow, these are cool. They took them home. And the political people said, look, they're taking the posters home. So they, again, just like in Cuba, the political people adopted what the cultural people were leading in to do cool, beautiful posters. And then they started to do a lot of stuff. So there was a student strike in San Francisco State. At UC Berkeley, there was the Third World Liberation Front. This is Malachias Montoya, who's still making posters now. This is a play on Hayakawa, so higher education, higher education. This is what you learn when you go to college these days. You get beat on the head for saying what you want to say. And by the way, this is a property of Willie Brown. If you notice, it was one of Willie Brown's that somehow he didn't keep. So in 1970, there were a whole bunch of anti-war movements going on, and all of a sudden students, again, took over institutions and started to print posters. And so this was a big deal, and they were cranking out a lot of really simple posters. They took over art schools and colleges. And these are just some of the posters. And by the way, that's all you see. This is Lonnie Hancock. This is when she was running for city council in Berkeley. The idea of, there was a vote for community control of police. Does that sound familiar? Don't be a silent part of the war machine. This is a play on Mario Savio's expression about throw yourself into the gears and stop the machine. This is a totally wild poster that was made. This wasn't screen printed, it was offset. This guy didn't put his name on it because he was afraid of getting beat up by the ROTC students. And he was probably right. I finally found out later who he was. But, me lie, we lie, they die. We lie refers to the massacre, for those of you who are old enough to remember. So this poster was very important. Here's, Sisters Be Strong. I mean, this could be now. Kent State, Augusta, Georgia. Black students and civilians were killed. I mean, this was, people know about Kent State because it was bigger news because white students were killed. Augusta, Georgia, was lesser known. So these were posters about things that people didn't know much about even then. You know, here we go. Just a few more dead blacks. Could I just change a few words and call this Black Lives Matter? This is 1970.
Do you mind going back to the last slide before that?
Ooh, can I do that? No, I
It's
can't.
okay, I'll go back.
Right now, if you go to the Berkeley Art Museum, at the top of the hour for 9 minutes, I've got 22 of these posters flashing on their giant jumbotron. And inside I loaned a bunch of these posters for the show for hippie modernism. So that's one difference between the hippie modernism show and the show at the DeYoung. The DeYoung show is all about the cool, fun, you know, summer of love shit, which I love. But there's the whole political side too, which is a lot more reflected in the hippie modernism show. And that's because the curation of it, both the original show and the amplified show, which is what you see at the Brooklyn Museum, includes people of color, gay history, labor history. So this is really fun. I mean, this jumbotron is so wild. And these are these posters on the wall at the time. I mean, the first exhibition, this is where the circles close in. The first exhibition at the then new, brand new University Art Museum in 1970 was a political poster exhibition that included these posters. Wow. So right now they're showing posters that were at their original facility in 1970. And there's the My Lai poster, there's a bunch of these you see. So, what's new? What have we learned? What have you done for you lately? Let's move into the current days. I mean, the Royal Chicano Air Force, this is a poster about poster making. They're based in Sacramento area. There's more of their posters about farm worker solidarity. This is about the International Hotel, which was a 10-year struggle around an SRO in the city. For many years after that, it was just this hole in the ground. But this was a simple two-color linoleum cut that was later turned into an offset poster and distributed. Again, multiple languages, just like OSPOP. You know, you want to reach your audiences, and if you don't speak their language, you're not going to reach them. Japantown Media is doing a lot of stuff. This was the children of people who'd been interned during World War II, Japanese Americans. And their parents were done with the fight. They didn't want to talk about it anymore. So the kids took up the fight and said, we want reparations, we want justice. And so they were doing all this stuff, beautiful posters, about raising this issue again for a whole generation that didn't even know about World War II and the internments. Great, beautiful stuff. Native American community was doing stuff. This is poetry. Again, you have these intersections of cultural forms. You've got a poster for a concert that's a fundraiser for something else. I mean, these all intersect in a lot of ways. Moving into the last dot-com boom in the Mission, which only lasted, a year and a half or so. But this was all of a sudden, people were starting to say, wow, the prices are going up around here, we're getting displaced. A lot of yuppies are moving in here. So this was sort of the first wave of anti-gentrification poster making. These were repasted all over the Mission. Homelessness is not just for poor people anymore. Again, teaching people about their own history. And I love this one. It's very simple, two-color poster, but it takes a black and white TV, sort of referring to the Vietnam era, even though, we had color TVs then. But the idea is, it's what you see on TV now is only part of the picture. And this was during, the Iraq War, when we weren't getting the whole picture. There were embedded journalists. Back in Vietnam, at least we were having people who were telling the whole story. And you'd see people coming home in body bags. We didn't see that anymore. All of a sudden, you couldn't show that. It was illegal to show that. Why? You didn't want people to start thinking about this shit. So this is a good poster about saying, think about what news you're not getting. What are the blind spots in your coverage? This poster by, I could change this word and say, Vietnam is Aslan, and say this was done in 1968, you believe me. Some of these issues just keep coming around. I love this. It's just a great, simple poster. And somehow, we still are struggling with the idea of who's got access to our information. More contemporary stuff. This one of Favi's, no GMOs. Again, multiple languages. It's just Posters are a great way to communicate a simple message and get you going. Standing Rock. This is a great poster. So this tradition continues. When I was at Occupy Oakland, the line for people to get a handmade poster was longer than the line for people to get food. And one thing, people don't see art being made much. You may be lucky to see somebody tagging a wall or making a mural, but stuff like what we do isn't public. Well, it's public here. And when you demystify the art making process, people go, wow, I can do that. And so it's a great way to get people to think, well, maybe I can be empowered to make some art. You don't have to be the world's greatest artist to make art. This is like back to the WPA, when we were teaching, everybody can help to contribute to the culture of the community. So John Paul was cranking these posters out, and it was very empowering. But also, you take that poster home and you put it on the wall, and it's there for a week, it's there for 2 weeks, it's there for 20 years. You say, I was there. I was at that event, and you're proud of that because you were a part of history. So that's something you can't get with a YouTube video. This is a show that I did at the Oakland Museum a few years ago, highlighting all of this stuff and saying, my claim was that no place on earth has continuously produced more independent political posters than the San Francisco Bay Area. And that's a big claim, but nobody's challenged me on it yet. And so I run that spectrum, running all the way from people like Frank Rowe to what's going on right now about Standing Rock. And this is a really fun show to do. And so some of this stuff, like I said, stuff gets recycled. Here's a poster that we printed at Inkworks, where I worked at for 20 years. This just got used for the cover of a book that came out. A really interesting book. This woman is at the University of Nevada, Reno. She was looking for graphics. She came to me and said, I got just the thing. So this image lived again as the cover of a book. Here's a poster that I did in '85 about apartheid. Micah Bazant, Bay Area artist, said, I'm doing something about Palestine. He very carefully made an homage to my poster. Same typography, same design, but about Palestinian apartheid. And so it was like, I was so touched that he went all that trouble to do it right. It was really nicely done. So I'm going to end with something to really get you thinking about the high level about what this is all about. And it's called the life cycle of a cultural artifact. And so, somebody says, oh, Favi, we got a demonstration coming up. Can you make a poster? She says, oh, sure. So she makes a poster. Poster goes up, and it's used, it's carried in a demonstration, it goes on a telephone pole. It's over. And so somebody comes along and says, Julie said, I really like that. I love posters about GMOs. I'm all about GMOs. So she waits till the event's over, right? She takes the poster down carefully. Doesn't matter if it's got, staples in it, but the poster's there. She puts it in a drawer. And sometimes she'll put it up, or she'll tell people about it, but 10 years goes by, she says, I got a pile of these posters. What am I going to do? Or she's got to move out of her office really quickly, and this stuff's got to go somewhere. And believe me, there's a million reasons why people unload their personal collections. But it was lovingly collected by an individual who cares about this stuff. An individual curator is the first link in the key. Doesn't take money. Money sometimes helps, but a lot of these things were collected by people who have zero money. So it's collected and saved by an individual. Then at some point, it moves up the food chain. Julie says, I don't need this stuff. Maybe the Oakland Museum will take it. So the Oakland Museum says, sure, we'll take it. And she says, but you got to promise to digitize it and catalog it. Okay, we'll do that. So it goes to an archive, and they catalog it. And so it's preserved, but just preserved doesn't do any good. It's sitting in a drawer, doesn't matter. It's like sitting on the floor of a print shop. It doesn't do any good until it gets out. So it goes up the food chain to the Oakland Museum. They not only put it in a drawer, but they take a good picture of it. The picture goes online with the catalog information so that you know who did it, what the words are that are on it. I worked with a giant collection that I was the person that went with the collection. The collection was free. 24,000 posters gathered by Michael Rosman, who was a veteran of the free speech movement. But I shot all those posters in my basement. I've got a studio for shooting posters. I shot 24,000 posters. They went to the Oakland Museum, and I helped to catalog them. And they are now at the Oakland Museum in this giant online database. You can search for something. Ooh, GMO poster. And so what happens is it gets reused. Melanie Cervantes says, I'm really interested in doing a poster about GMOs. What's out there? What's happened before? I want to educate myself about the artistic heritage of this particular kind of poster. Well, she sees this poster that Fabi did and goes, wow, it's a great poster. I'm not going to copy it, but I'm going to honor it. I'm going to do something with it. I'm going to learn from it. And then it becomes a new object. It gets recycled in the art stream. And so if any of these steps break down, that poster doesn't live anymore. But if this continues, and so my job is sort of this stuff. I'm not a collector, but I'm a documenter and I'm a historian about this stuff. And so like, I brought these 2 books of posters from Inkworks Press that just closed down last year. 2 volumes because we did a book and then we did a book just before we closed down. So this is going to you guys.
Thank you.
And we documented the posters that we produced in that shop. So again, it's entering out into the stream and saying here, this was meant to be public. We don't care as much about copyright as long as it's used within the movement. So that's me, this is what I do, and let's have a conversation.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, some initial reactions. I love seeing this presentation. It brings back so much memories. But first, my big influence was actually Ospal posters. So when I saw the book that Lincoln made, documenting a lot of these posters, it heavily influenced my color palette, my approach. And also the reason I became an artist. I mean, I was always artistic, but I was getting my architecture, working on an architecture degree at Cal. But when I went to go see an archive of political posters, and I saw work by Emory Douglas, and I saw, honestly, for me, it was the first time that I saw white supremacy called out like crazy. And I was like, what is this? And I had never seen art that really called the system out. So I was like, I want to do that. Like, it shaped, and I ended up dropping out of school and just pursuing my art. And I didn't ever look back. So I would say that my foundation is as a political poster artist, and that my initial, actually a lot of my ways of working, which is printmaking, is precisely inspired on the idea of a multiple, which means that I don't necessarily do one of a kind, I do prints and posters that are a multiple. So that's a very critical kind of thing that shaped my output as an artist. If you look around also, I think that I have studied so much political posters that it's definitely shaped, my posters don't have a lot of words. Like all of that training really has I feel like I've been a repository for it. So I really want to emphasize how important it is that these things get documented and that they become tools for people to learn from.
Yeah. And these were intended to get people to think, and so it's, the difference between a print and a poster is a print usually, even if it's a multiple, it's usually intended to sort of have a smaller audience, whereas a poster is meant to go out on the street. It's a poster, it's posted. And that's why, I deal a lot with people who are worried about reproducing stuff and saying, is the artist going to get pissed off? And I said, well, possibly, but probably not. I've done 5 books. Nobody's ever hassled me. I try to get permissions from living artists if I can in their estates. But in general, these were meant to be out there and to change their mind. If you treat it with respect and you amplify it by explaining more about it and showing the context and so forth, people just love it. And like I said, I find out about who did anonymous stuff because I make it public again. And so people come out of the woodwork and say, yeah, I made that poster in 1970. It's wonderful to get their stories out again, and very often their families didn't even know this stuff. So making this stuff public is part of the cycle. And when people say, well, are people still making posters in this day of YouTube? And I say, yeah. Again, for all the reasons that I outlined, she's selling prints to raise money. You take it home, you put it on the wall, and you remember it. There's all these reasons why this ephemeral art really has a lot of resonance. It's just amplified by other media as well. But artists, some of the best poster making I've ever seen in my life is happening right now. So it ain't dying, folks. And it's just incredible. So, and Favi, even though she's now not even the youngest of the generation doing it, you know, she's still younger than I am. So no, this stuff has a long trajectory. It's great.
I'm an artist and an art educator, and I taught a lesson last year to my middle school students about, we created posters, and my struggle was getting them to connect to the message. You know, they were all about what's hip today and stuff, like they wanted to do emojis and stuff like that. And I spent so much time putting together a PowerPoint presentation showing the same thing you're doing and stuff like that. And I wanted to know, do you have any suggestions on how I should approach it differently?
I do, actually. Yeah, so I do political poster workshops all the time, like at least once a week. So one thing I found is that I think you should show historical works, but you should show contemporary works. So try to look up things on things that they know are happening, right? Like police violence or earth stuff, or even like the right to skateboard, right? Biking, things like all bodies are beautiful kind of thing. So I think it's important to mix it, because sometimes when they'll see references to things that were, 30, 40 years ago, it's not as strong, although they should, some of the Black Panther stuff is like still totally relevant. So the second thing is I usually provide the students their first round of poster making with a pile of stock graphics. So I bring all kinds of black and white art images like fists, earths, hands, birds, vegetables, and then we talk about, well, what's important to you? What do you really care about? Like, if you had the opportunity to put a poster all around the neighborhood, what would you say that you care about? And some of them say, I like animals. I don't like how, I don't like to see dog fighting, or I don't like how people can't ride their bike because, there's not a bike lane. So I think it's great to give them some kind of source material at first, and that way they're not just, they're not just using pop art, emojis or stuff, but they're actually thinking, how do I compose a message? And then by the second time they do a political poster, usually by then they have a connection to the iconography.
Yeah, I'd really agree with them. It depends on which level you're teaching to. There's times that if I'm talking to, art students at UC Berkeley, I do different things than I do when I'm teaching the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And so a lot of stuff that she's talking about is spot on, where you demystify the idea that you've got to be a good illustrator to make good art. There's a lot of ways to take existing stuff and make collage. You can do these things and make art without having to be good at drawing. And so once people get past the, I can't draw, I don't care, it doesn't matter. And things like that will break that down. And looking at examples where people take something and mess with it, and you can, and again, thinking about what the message you want to get across, keep it simple, few words, all of this stuff works really well. But teaching art, I've literally taught silkscreen to 4th graders, and you walk in with a stencil that's pre-prepared. It's got I've done stuff. I had a circus. It's a circus ring, and people can get animals to go inside, and they just literally cut a piece of paper, bring it up, we put it down, and wham! A classroom of 25 kids, they're able to get their own poster, and they just cut it with scissors. So there's a lot of ways to teach screen printing, and it's like a fantastic tool. If people haven't done any screen printing, I say do it. It's like one of the most empowering artistic tools you can ever learn. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what's different aesthetically between posters that are made by individual people who are part of a movement that they care about versus posters made for commercial use versus maybe posters, we were talking about propaganda earlier, posters that are coming out of like an official government entity, like it's rhetoric, it's visual rhetoric, so there's some commonalities there, but there have to be some differences too, I would think.
So first, I think that the movement doesn't do a good job of working with artists. So usually, if you can just tell, like there'll be a flyer with 100 words on it. It's like, you're just like, why are you giving me this? It's not even pretty. So I think that there's a lot of artists who are doing things that because they care about the issue. It's not necessarily like a group saying, hey, I'm going to commission you. Some groups do that. A lot of groups don't, right? And I think that's a problem in our social justice sector. I think in general, people don't include artists in the movement enough. So I would say that. So in terms of corporate. Well, I actually was just looking at an old post I did about Shepherd Ferry. I was remembering that after 9/11, he did a poster for Saks Fifth Avenue that was about shopping, and I was like, oh God, that must be one of those things you're just like, why did I do that? But that's the only, I've only seen very few times where, well, that's not true. I also know after Occupy, like a lot of the Las Vegas ads kind of stole some of that imagery from Occupy, so I definitely have seen co-optation. I mean, corporations are always co-opting the hot stuff. But I don't think that honestly, I don't think they get it right, because so much about political posters is about fighting back, about having a voice, fighting against the big system. So it doesn't benefit the big system to do it. It just feels, it doesn't work.
Well, most political art comes from an idea. It's
Right.
not somebody sits down and goes, I think I'm going to do political art.
Right.
Something drives you to say that. And I
Exactly.
think to Derek's point, especially when you're working with, I'm a child of the 60s.
Ah.
Our posters were, somebody's in a room saying, I got to get this out there. There may not have been any words. It's just an image, whether it was a fist, a peace sign, or somebody hanging from a noose.
Right.
It was imagery that you had to get out there quickly. Unfortunately, to your point, Lincoln, so much stuff is lost
Oh.
because a lot of stuff that we did was rolled up, put in a
Yeah,
drawer.
it happens. I mean, you just learn to live with that. It's
And
like,
yeah,
it's going to be an imperfect process, but you'd be surprised at how much stuff keeps coming up. I mean,
Keeps coming
every
up.
time somebody says, oh, well, I found, a bunch of posters in my garage, you want to come look at them? You probably know them all. And I go, no. Every time I go to see almost any collection, there's always at least one they go, I've never seen this poster before. So it slowly adds up, and the cool thing is, we've got tools now to document and share these. I mean, 20 years ago, I would have shot a slide of this. Nowadays, I can go to my studio, shoot a high-res image, send it off to Favi, send it off to somebody in Berlin, and say, hey, check out this cool poster about homelessness in San Francisco in 1943. So, the tools are making some of this stuff a lot easier to do. At the same time, the source material is sort of vanishing, but you do the best you can. You just live with that historical fact.
Well, now that you're out there, because there's so much, I love the stuff from Mexico, but there's a lot of stuff in Brazil.
Yeah,
South
there's-
Brazil, when they were going through the 50s with government. Do you get a lot of stuff from international, Sweden, Poland?
There are people that do stuff. I mean, there's a lot of holes, and there's a lot of good stuff that's come out of South Africa, for example. That's become pretty well documented. I've got a huge collection of stuff from Chile during the dictatorship. But these are always moving targets. People are always putting stuff together to say, okay, here's what we know, here's more stuff. So it's, I just contributed a section on Cuban posters to a book on communist posters of the world, but it only covers 6 countries. There's a lot of other stuff, and there's a lot of movements that aren't communist. There's all sorts of movements out there that need their voice. But people have, like I said, there's individual collectors, and you find, oh, so-and-so's got a whole bunch of posters about Brazil. So this stuff keeps coming up, and like I said, the weak link is if part of that cycle breaks, somebody may have a great collection and they've got it in their house, and then it burns down. I mean, I literally have a great set of posters somebody had in their garage that are all burned at the edge because there was a fire in their garage. So one downside to the small, private, collected by love collections is that they don't have the resources to make sure that they are taken care of, and the bugs don't eat them, and they don't get pissed on by the cat, and they don't burn up in the fire. So, you balance that. That's why moving it up the food chain institution, it may be less accessible to the community, but at least it's probably going to be taken care of. So there's always trade-offs at every step of the way. But you never know when you run across stuff that you didn't know was there.
So the stuff you had, I think we saw the exhibit at Oakland Museum,
Yeah.
when you had it there. All that's been digitized.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all
all
online.
digitized.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we've got it. Some of them are pretty thoroughly cataloged. Some of them are partially cataloged, but partially is better than nothing. If you see an image with a partial record, that's a long way there.
I was going to ask you, when creating a poster, are you thinking about color first, or are you thinking about, okay, what colors really make the most impact? Or do color even come up when you even thinking about creating a poster?
I have a good response for that. So my mentors taught me that it has to work in black and white because some of the original approaches, like linoleum block that you saw
Right.
from Mexico, and Xerox. Xerox changed, it became a way to, have a multiple. So it has to work in black and white. So I was always taught to think about the message first, because the other thing is, if you think about the art first, you're not thinking about what you want to communicate. So first think about what do you want to say? What it really has to be communicated, because it's urgent. Political posters usually you have to get them out the next day because some stuff's going down. So I think that it's about how do we have the most effective imagery, and if it's just one color, it's just one color. If it's just on the copy machine, that's what it is. I think that color is I don't think it's the first thing.
But it's so funny because a lot of the posters I've seen from the 60s, 70s, 80s, even today, I see the three basic colors, red, black, and white.
Yeah.
For the most part, it just seems like
I'm old
those are the
school enough that color costs money too. I mean, when we did a poster, it's like you're hand cutting a stencil and you're printing it. And if you want a 4-color poster, you got to print it 4 times. I mean, you do that as a fundraising poster. You use the black and white version that we paste on the street. Very often people do 2 different editions of something. But nowadays people don't think cost because you're doing it on a computer. Color doesn't cost anything. And so it's.
But I would think like the color would draw more attention too. Like do black and
But
white
it
kind
was
of get
about-
washed away with the other posters that are going on? Or
But it also can detract from it. It's too busy. I mean, it's just, there's different ways of looking at it. You've got to stop and step back. I mean, my way of thinking of design is it's got to grab you from across the street, but also keep you attracted when you're like a foot away reading it. If the color draws you in, or if the composition draws you in, you're halfway there. But that's only halfway. And if you've got a lot of colors, we look at something from across the street, you go, I can't see what that is. It's got to be bold enough to grab you. So color, and again, it depends on how you're reproducing it. So.
First thing, Lincoln, you did our Christmas party at the Rosie the River for our Rates at Kaiser.
Oh my gosh!
You did a great job, so thank you for that. And my question for both of you is, if you were to do an amalgamation of a message globally and put it in a poster, what would it be?
I think,
You see my head spinning? It's
I would say,
Keep it clean.
I would probably, if it was gonna be a global poster, I would probably do an invitation to completely reimagine the future. And that, or like Arundhati Roy, Another World is Possible. Just putting out that inquiry to people, because I think there's so many aspects of systemic problems that are happening. The other thing is, I think if I had to choose one issue, I would choose global warming. I would say something about the way humans are destroying the earth. And it's interesting because I actually have to think a lot about these things because I'm dealing with migration. It's a global issue. I deal with climate change, it's a global issue. And thinking about how to have something positive. Yeah, but I want to have something really positive. So I sometimes it's about going back to the basics, because I think that art is about critical thinking and sometimes asking fundamental questions of like human condition.
I agree. What she said.
That seems like a wonderful place to stop. So
Thank
you, Lincoln. Thank you. We're going to be around for a little bit more. Please come have some more to eat and drink. Look at the art. We'll turn the lights back on. And thank